My mom assigned me the ugly sister role at birth. When I got accepted to modeling school at 16, she broke my nose while I slept. I was born 3 minutes after my twin sister Sophia, which according to my mother meant I was destined to live in her shadow forever. Mom declared within hours of our birth that Sophia was the beautiful one with her perfectly symmetrical features and bright blue eyes, while I was the plain one with slightly uneven features and darker coloring. She wrote these assignments on index cards and taped them to our cribs in the hospital nursery, telling every nurse and visitor about her observations. Dad left when we were 18 months old, unable to watch Mom systematically treat us so differently based on her arbitrary beauty rankings. She took his departure as validation that her system was necessary to prepare us for a cruel world where appearance determined everything. Mom doubled down on the role assignments, creating elaborate rules about how we should dress, behave, and present ourselves to maintain what she called the natural family hierarchy. Sophia got the princess bedroom with pink walls, a canopy bed, and a walk-in closet full of designer clothes that Mom spent hours coordinating each morning. She attended dance classes, piano lessons, and etiquette training to enhance her natural gifts. Mom would spend 45 minutes doing Sophia's hair before school, creating elaborate braids and curls while explaining how important it was to maximize her advantages in life through careful presentation. My bedroom was painted beige with basic furniture from discount stores and clothes from thrift shops that Mom deliberately chose to be unflattering. She cut my hair herself using kitchen scissors, creating uneven lengths that made my face look wider. When teachers or relatives commented on the different treatment, Mom would explain matter-of-factly that she was being realistic about our different potentials and preparing us accordingly for our futures. The psychological manipulation started early and was relentless in its consistency. Mom would make Sophia practice walking and posing in front of mirrors, while I had to watch and take notes on proper posture and movement that I was told I could never truly master. She enrolled Sophia in children's beauty pageants where she won ribbons and tiaras, while I was relegated to carrying her supplies and helping with costume changes in bathroom stalls. When we started elementary school, Mom volunteered as the class photographer for every event specifically so she could control which pictures got taken and distributed. Photo albums from our childhood show hundreds of images of Sophia smiling and posing, while I appear in maybe 20 pictures total, usually partially hidden behind other people or caught in unflattering angles that emphasized my supposed flaws. Mom created detailed beauty routines for Sophia involving expensive skincare products, professional manicures, and regular salon visits for highlights and conditioning treatments. Meanwhile, she told me that trying to improve my appearance was wasteful and delusional, that I should focus on developing useful skills like cleaning and organizing since I'd never attract attention through looks alone. The rules extended to every aspect of our daily lives with suffocating attention to detail. Sophia was allowed to eat whatever she wanted because her naturally high metabolism kept her thin, while I was put on strict portion control and forbidden from eating in front of company because my normal childhood weight was deemed unacceptable for the ugly sister. Mom would make elaborate meals for Sophia while giving me plain salads and telling me that overeating would make my face even rounder. By middle school, the psychological damage was becoming apparent in both of us, though in different ways. Sophia developed anxiety about maintaining her appearance and would spend hours examining her face in mirrors, looking for any sign of imperfection that might threaten her status as the beautiful one. I became withdrawn and started believing that my worth as a person was fundamentally limited by my appearance, avoiding social situations and refusing to participate in activities where I might be photographed. The modeling industry connection came through Mom's coworker, whose daughter had been signed by a local agency. Mom immediately enrolled Sophia in weekend modeling workshops and started driving her to casting calls throughout the region, spending thousands of dollars on professional headshots, portfolio development, and wardrobe for auditions. Sophia landed several small jobs modeling for department store catalogs and local advertising campaigns, which Mom used as validation of her beauty assessment system. During high school, Mom's control became even more intense and micromanaging. She monitored Sophia's diet obsessively, weighing her every morning and adjusting meal plans based on upcoming modeling assignments. She scheduled professional makeup sessions before important social events and hired a personal trainer to maintain Sophia's figure according to industry standards that seemed to change weekly based on whatever casting director feedback Mom had received. Meanwhile, I was essentially invisible in my own family, existing only to support Sophia's modeling career by handling scheduling, driving her to appointments when Mom couldn't, and managing the growing collection of portfolios and promotional materials. Mom made it clear that my role was supportive rather than competitive, that trying to pursue similar opportunities would be delusional and potentially harmful to Sophia's chances in a cutthroat industry. The breaking point came during my junior year when a talent scout attended our school's drama production, where I'd been cast in a small supporting role. After the show, she approached me directly and said I had interesting features and a compelling presence that could work well in alternative modeling markets focused on authenticity rather than conventional beauty. She handed me her business card and suggested I consider auditioning for her agency. I kept the card hidden for weeks, afraid to tell anyone about the encounter because it challenged everything Mom had taught me about my limitations and place in the family hierarchy. But something about the scout's words kept echoing in my mind, the suggestion that beauty could be defined differently than Mom's rigid standards, and that I might have value beyond supporting Sophia's career from the shadows. When I finally worked up the courage to research the agency online, I discovered they specialized in representing models with unconventional looks for editorial fashion, artistic photography, and campaigns celebrating diversity and beauty standards. Their portfolio featured people with asymmetrical features, unique coloring, and distinctive characteristics that traditional agencies might reject, but that created powerful and memorable images. The application process required submitting unretouched photos, showing natural features and authentic expressions, rather than the heavily styled and edited images typical of mainstream modeling portfolios. I took pictures using my phone's timer function in natural lighting, feeling both terrified and exhilarated by the possibility that someone might see potential in the face Mom had taught me to hide and minimize. 3 weeks later, I received a call asking me to attend an in-person audition at their downtown office. The woman on the phone explained that they were impressed by my natural look and wanted to explore whether my features would translate well to their clients' aesthetic vision for upcoming campaigns focused on redefining beauty standards in commercial advertising. I knew I couldn't tell Mom about the audition directly because she would either forbid me from going or find ways to sabotage the opportunity to protect Sophia's position as the family's only model. Instead, I told her I was staying after school for a study group and took public transportation downtown to an office building where I'd never imagined myself belonging. The audition was unlike anything I'd expected based on Mom's descriptions of Sophia's casting experiences. Instead of asking me to pose or perform specific movements, the photographer simply talked with me about my interests, experiences, and perspectives while taking candid shots of my natural expressions and reactions. They seemed genuinely interested in my personality rather than just my physical appearance. 2 days later, I received another call informing me that I'd been selected for a paid modeling assignment with a skincare company launching a campaign about embracing natural beauty and self-acceptance. The shoot was scheduled for the following Saturday, and they would provide all styling, makeup, and wardrobe while paying me more money than I'd ever had in my life for 6 hours of work. The morning of the shoot, I told Mom I was going to the library to work on a research project and would be gone most of the day. She barely looked up from styling Sophia's hair for a catalog shoot, reminding me to stay out of trouble and not embarrass the family with any attention-seeking behavior that might reflect poorly on Sophia's professional reputation. The modeling shoot was a revelation that challenged every assumption I'd internalized about my appearance and value. The photographer and stylists treated me with respect and professionalism, focusing on capturing authentic moments rather than forcing me to conform to predetermined beauty standards. They enhanced my natural features with subtle makeup and chose clothing that complemented rather than concealed my body type. Looking at the preliminary shots on the photographer's camera screen, I saw myself as beautiful for the first time in my 17 years of life. Not beautiful like Sophia with her conventional features and polished presentation, but beautiful in my own distinctive way with character and depth that traditional beauty standards had trained me to see as flaws rather than assets. The campaign launched 3 weeks later across social media platforms and in print advertisements throughout the city. My face appeared on billboards, bus stops, and magazine spreads with messaging about celebrating individual beauty and rejecting narrow definitions of attractiveness. The response was overwhelmingly positive, with thousands of comments from people saying the campaign helped them feel more confident about their own appearance. Word spread quickly through our high school community, as classmates recognized me in the advertisements and started treating me differently than they had when I was just Sophia's plain sister. Teachers congratulated me on the success. Friends asked about my modeling experience, and boys who'd never noticed me began paying attention in ways that felt both exciting and overwhelming after years of invisibility. I managed to keep the modeling work secret from Mom for almost 2 months by scheduling shoots during school hours or weekends when she was focused on Sophia's activities. The agency booked me for additional campaigns with other brands interested in authentic representation, and my portfolio grew to include magazine editorials and online content that challenged traditional beauty standards through diverse representation. The discovery happened on a Saturday morning when Mom was driving Sophia to a casting call and saw my face on a billboard advertising the skincare campaign. She pulled over immediately and called me, her voice shaking with rage as she demanded to know how my image had appeared in professional advertising without her knowledge or permission. I tried explaining about the talent scout, the audition process, and the modeling opportunities that had developed, but Mom's fury only intensified as she realized I'd been secretly pursuing the career she'd reserved for Sophia alone. She accused me of sabotaging Sophia's chances by confusing the market with inferior representation from our family, of being selfish and delusional about my appearance, of destroying the careful system she'd created to protect both of us from disappointment. That night, Mom sat both of us down for what she called a family meeting about respect, roles, and consequences for violating the natural order that kept our household functioning. She explained that my modeling work was undermining Sophia's opportunities by creating confusion among casting directors about which sister was the legitimate representation of our family's beauty potential. Mom announced new rules designed to prevent further disruption of the family hierarchy. I was forbidden from accepting any additional modeling work, required to decline existing bookings, and expected to focus on supporting Sophia's career, rather than competing with her in an industry where she had natural advantages. Any violation of these rules would result in serious consequences designed to restore proper order to our relationship dynamic. I refused to abandon the modeling opportunities that had given me confidence and financial independence for the first time in my life. The work had shown me that Mom's beauty assessments were arbitrary and limiting, that there was space in the industry for different types of attractiveness, and that I deserved to pursue opportunities based on my own merit, rather than her role assignments. Mom's retaliation was swift and calculated to cause maximum damage to my emerging career and self-confidence. She contacted the modeling agency pretending to be concerned about my mental health, claiming I had body dysmorphia and delusions about my appearance that made me unsuitable for professional representation. She provided fabricated medical records suggesting I was undergoing psychiatric treatment for issues related to appearance and reality perception. When the agency called to discuss Mom's concerns, I was horrified to learn about her interference and immediately tried to explain the truth about our family situation. But the damage was already done because modeling agencies are extremely cautious about liability issues and cannot risk representing models with alleged mental health problems that might affect their professional performance or reliability. 3 of my booked campaigns were canceled while the agency conducted background checks and tried to verify the conflicting information they'd received about my psychological state and family situation. The process took weeks, during which I couldn't work or book new assignments, watching my emerging career stall because of Mom's deliberate sabotage. I realized I needed help from outside the family system to protect my opportunities and expose Mom's manipulative behavior to authorities who could intervene. I made an appointment with the school counselor, Mrs. Davidson, who had always been supportive and might understand the seriousness of what was happening at home. Mrs. Davidson listened carefully as I explained the role assignments Mom had created, the different treatment Sophia and I received, the psychological manipulation we'd both endured, and the recent modeling career sabotage that had cost me thousands of dollars in lost income and professional credibility. She took detailed notes and said the pattern I described constituted psychological abuse that warranted intervention from Protective Services. That afternoon, Mrs. Davidson called Child Protective Services to report suspected emotional abuse and filed a formal complaint with the school district about the impact of family dysfunction on my educational and social development. She also connected me with a lawyer who specialized in teenage rights and could help me navigate the legal system to protect my modeling opportunities from further parental interference. The lawyer, Jennifer Walsh, reviewed the documentation I'd collected about Mom's sabotage and explained that parents couldn't legally interfere with their minor children's legitimate employment opportunities, especially when the interference involved providing false information to employers about mental health issues. She filed for an emergency protective order preventing Mom from contacting my agency or potential employers with fabricated claims. Mom's response to the legal intervention was to escalate her efforts to regain control over my appearance and career opportunities through more direct and physical methods. She scheduled an appointment with a plastic surgeon, claiming she wanted to discuss corrective procedures for facial asymmetries that were affecting my self-esteem and social development. Dr. Martinez, the plastic surgeon, was immediately concerned about Mom's presentation and the fact that she was seeking procedures for a teenage patient who showed no obvious deformities or medical issues requiring surgical intervention. He refused to schedule any procedures without extensive psychological evaluations and multiple consultations to ensure medical necessity rather than cosmetic preferences driven by family dynamics. Mom found another doctor, Dr. Richards, who was less scrupulous about patient screening and more willing to perform cosmetic procedures on teenagers if parents provided consent and payment. She scheduled a consultation for the following week and told me it was a routine medical appointment for a skin condition check that required professional evaluation. The consultation revealed Mom's true intentions when Dr. Richards began discussing rhinoplasty options for correcting what Mom described as nasal asymmetry that was preventing me from succeeding in competitive industries. Mom had researched specific surgical modifications designed to make my features more conventional and similar to Sophia's appearance, rather than embracing the distinctive characteristics that had attracted modeling opportunities. I refused to consent to any surgical procedures and walked out of the appointment. But Mom scheduled the surgery anyway, using forged signatures on consent forms and falsified medical records claiming I had breathing problems requiring corrective intervention. Dr. Richards accepted the documentation without proper verification because the payment was guaranteed and the procedures would generate significant revenue for his practice. 2 days before the scheduled surgery, I discovered the appointment while checking Mom's calendar for Sophia's modeling schedule. The reality of what Mom was planning hit me like a physical blow to the chest. The realization that she would rather surgically alter my face than allow me to succeed using my natural features that challenged her beauty hierarchy. I immediately called Jennifer Walsh, who filed an emergency injunction preventing the surgery and demanding an investigation into the forged consent forms and falsified medical records Mom had provided. Dr. Richards' office was contacted by the court and warned that performing procedures on a minor without proper consent would result in criminal charges and medical license suspension. Mom was furious about the legal intervention and the exposure of her surgical plan to authorities who were now documenting her behavior as part of the Protective Services investigation. She accused me of betraying the family, of being ungrateful for her efforts to help me improve my prospects, of destroying Sophia's opportunities through selfish attention-seeking behavior that was damaging our reputation. The night after the surgery was canceled, I went to bed exhausted from the stress and legal battles, double-checking that my bedroom door was locked because Mom had been acting increasingly erratic and threatening throughout the day. I fell asleep around midnight after texting Jennifer Walsh about additional safety concerns based on Mom's escalating behavior and verbal threats. I woke up around 3 a.m. to excruciating pain radiating across my face and the taste of blood in my mouth. My nose felt wrong, completely different from how it had been when I fell asleep, and when I tried to touch it, sharp pain shot through my entire skull. I stumbled to the bathroom mirror and saw my reflection transformed by severe swelling, bruising, and obvious displacement of my nasal structure. Mom had used a heavy object, probably a hammer from Dad's old toolbox in the garage, to break my nose while I slept, creating the exact type of damage that would require the surgical correction she'd been planning. The injury was severe enough that my features would be permanently altered even with medical treatment, effectively ending my modeling career and achieving her goal of destroying the opportunities that had challenged her control. I called 911 from my bedroom, speaking through swollen lips and explaining that I'd been assaulted while sleeping and needed immediate medical attention and police intervention. The paramedics arrived within minutes, followed by officers who photographed the scene and began questioning Mom about what had happened during the night. Mom claimed she'd heard a crash around midnight and found me unconscious in the bathroom, suggesting I'd fallen and injured myself during a sleepwalking episode that required immediate medical attention but wasn't anyone's fault. She presented herself as a concerned mother, dealing with a teenager who had been acting erratically and might have self-harmed due to pressure from modeling work and legal stress. The evidence contradicted her story immediately because the blood pattern showed I'd been injured in my bed rather than the bathroom, and the severity of the fractures was consistent with blunt force trauma rather than a fall. The hammer found in her bedroom closet still had blood and hair evidence that would later be matched through forensic analysis. Dr. Peterson at the emergency room documented extensive facial fractures requiring multiple surgeries to repair, including damage to the nasal passages that would affect my breathing permanently. He noted that the injury pattern was inconsistent with accidental trauma and appeared to result from deliberate assault using a heavy implement wielded with significant force. Detective Lisa Rodriguez was assigned to investigate the assault and immediately recognized the case as connected to the Protective Services investigation and previous legal issues involving parental interference with my modeling career. She interviewed me extensively about the family dynamics, Mom's history of controlling behavior, and the escalating conflict over my professional opportunities. The modeling agency called the hospital after seeing news coverage of the assault, expressing support and offering to hold my contracts during recovery while I underwent reconstructive surgery. The photographer from my first campaign visited with flowers and assured me that the industry had opportunities for models who'd experienced trauma and could represent resilience and healing through their work. Sophia came to the hospital crying and apologizing for years of going along with Mom's role assignments and differential treatment. She admitted that the pressure to be the beautiful one had given her eating disorders and anxiety, and that she'd always felt guilty about receiving advantages while I was systematically undermined and diminished by the same system that elevated her. Mom was charged with aggravated assault, child abuse, and tampering with medical records based on the forged surgery consent forms. Jennifer Walsh filed additional civil claims for intentional infliction of emotional distress and interference with business opportunities, seeking damages for the lost modeling income and medical expenses. The trial took place 8 months later after my face had healed enough for me to testify, without appearing too damaged to garner jury sympathy. The prosecutor presented evidence of the long-term psychological abuse, the career sabotage, the forged medical documents, and the premeditated assault designed to permanently alter my appearance and destroy my opportunities. Dr. Martinez testified about Mom's attempts to pressure him into performing unnecessary cosmetic surgery on a teenager, describing her behavior as concerning and potentially abusive toward a patient who showed no medical need for intervention. Dr. Richards was investigated by the medical board for accepting forged consent forms and scheduling procedures without proper verification. Sophia testified about the family role system and the psychological damage it had caused both of us, describing years of anxiety and disordered eating that resulted from pressure to maintain her position as the beautiful sister while watching me be systematically degraded and controlled. Her testimony was powerful because it showed that Mom's system had harmed both of us in different ways. The jury deliberated for 3 hours before finding Mom guilty on all charges. The judge sentenced her to 6 years in prison for the assault and an additional 2 years for the child abuse charges, noting that the premeditated nature of the attack and the long-term pattern of psychological manipulation warranted the maximum penalty under state law. My modeling career resumed during Mom's trial with campaigns focused on healing, resilience, and redefining beauty after trauma. The scars from my broken nose created distinctive features that several photographers found compelling for editorial work celebrating survival and recovery. The industry response was overwhelmingly supportive, with other models and agencies speaking out about abuse within families and the importance of protecting young people's opportunities. Sophia and I started family therapy to repair our relationship and address the psychological damage from years of competing rather than supporting each other. The therapist helped us understand how Mom's role assignments had pitted us against each other instead of allowing us to develop our individual identities and talents without comparison or hierarchy. 6 months after Mom's conviction, Sophia decided to step away from modeling to focus on college and pursue psychology studies with the goal of helping other families affected by similar control and abuse patterns. She said her experience as the favored child had taught her about the damage caused by arbitrary beauty standards and comparative treatment within families. Jennifer Walsh helped me establish legal independence and financial controls that prevented Mom from accessing my modeling income or interfering with my career development from prison. We set up educational funds and long-term financial planning that would support my future goals regardless of how long my modeling opportunities continued. The reconstructive surgery left me with subtle but permanent changes to my facial structure that actually enhanced rather than diminished my modeling opportunities. The combination of my original distinctive features and the slight alterations created a unique look that several fashion photographers found compelling for artistic and editorial projects. Dr. Richards lost his medical license after investigation revealed a pattern of performing unnecessary procedures on teenagers without proper consent verification or medical justification. The case prompted new regulations requiring additional safeguards for cosmetic procedures on minors and stricter verification of parental consent forms. 2 years later, I testified before a state legislative committee about psychological abuse in families and the importance of recognizing emotional manipulation as seriously as physical violence. My story helped pass new laws expanding the definition of child abuse to include systematic undermining of children's self-worth and deliberate interference with their legitimate opportunities and development. The modeling work evolved into advocacy and speaking engagements at schools and community organizations about family abuse, beauty standards, and supporting young people who challenge arbitrary role assignments imposed by controlling parents. The combination of professional success and meaningful advocacy work created a life path that Mom never could have imagined or approved. Sophia and I maintained our relationship through regular therapy sessions and gradually developed the sister bond that Mom's competitive system had prevented during our childhood. We celebrated each other's successes and supported each other through challenges without the artificial hierarchy that had poisoned our early years. 3 years after the assault, I received a letter from Mom in prison attempting to justify her behavior and requesting visitation that would allow her to explain her protective intentions and desire to reconnect with her daughters. Neither Sophia nor I responded to the letter or subsequent attempts at contact through prison chaplains and social workers. The modeling agency that first recognized my potential expanded their diversity initiatives and hired me as a consultant, helping identify and develop unconventional models whose features challenged traditional beauty standards. The work allowed me to help other young people discover opportunities that celebrate their distinctive characteristics rather than trying to conform to narrow definitions of attractiveness. My face healed completely, leaving subtle scars that became part of my signature look and attracted clients interested in authentic representation rather than artificial perfection. The combination of survival, success, and advocacy created a personal brand focused on resilience and redefining beauty through individual strength rather than conventional standards. Looking back, Mom's assault was the final desperate act of someone whose control system was collapsing and whose arbitrary authority was being challenged by reality. Her attempt to destroy my opportunities ultimately strengthened them and exposed her abuse to authorities who could protect other children from similar treatment. 6 months later, Mom was denied parole after prison counselors determined she hadn't accepted responsibility for her abusive behavior and continued to view her actions as justified attempts to protect her family from disappointment and competition. She would serve her full sentence while Sophia and I built lives free from her toxic role assignments and controlling interference.